This is Wilson Morales from blackfilm.com. I'm talking to writer-director Shaka King, who's got a new film coming out next week, September 18th. It's called Newlyweeds, and along with him is one of his stars, Trae Harris. Shaka, can you talk to me about putting this film together, the attraction to writing the story, and taking it from Sundance to theaters?
Well, I started writing the script in 2009 while I was at NYU Graduate Film School, and this film's actually my thesis film. But I started writing the script in 2009. It was the summer after my second year. And, the idea was something I'd been sort of kicking around from before film school. I figured, the idea came to me and I thought to myself, well, it's kind of crazy that there's never been, a stoner. At the time, when I first envisioned it, when I first, knew I was making a movie about a couple that smokes weed, I was like, no one's ever made a stoner romantic comedy. What a genius idea. I ended up not making a stoner romantic comedy because it's not really a romantic comedy. It's more of a stoner romance drama, coming of age comedy, right? But it's not a romantic comedy. So I started writing it the summer after my second year, and the title hit me in the shower, Newlyweeds. I was like, oh, this is, gonna make me a millionaire. And I was writing it for about 3 years, and I decided, I wanted to make this as my thesis film. And once I made that decision, there was the process of trying to find a producer. And something they told us in film school, I remember from the very first day, was that your collaborators are gonna be the people in this room. And so when it was time for me to find a producer, I decided to recruit my good friend, Michael Matthews, who was a classmate of mine who, we'd been working together on projects from the first year. He was someone who I always showed all my scripts to, first because his opinion, and I just really respect his mind as a creative person, and as a business person as well, because he has a business mind as well. And so he was into the idea. He'd read every draft and had given like fantastic notes, and he in turn reached out to a guy named Jim Warwick, who he associate produced a movie for the previous summer. And Jim came on board as a producer, and he was the first one to invest any money. He was the one who was like, we need to set a deadline, even though we don't have all the money raised. We set the deadline for, I believe it was January of 2012 rather, I'm sorry. And we made the movie in April, but setting that deadline really did sort of give us a benchmark to aim for, and we started to really just take it seriously once that deadline came into play. And then the final producer brought on board was Ben Akanabe, who, as you probably know, played Chris Partlow on The Wire. And, we brought him on board to help us recruit, talent that would basically court investors. So he was the one who brought Hassan Johnson and Isaiah Whitlock Jr. from The Wire. He brought Diane Neal from Law and Order, and he also was the one who introduced us to Amari Cheatham, who plays Lyle, the male lead in the film. And then Trae, you could talk about how you and I came in contact.
Yeah, Shaka, in a lot of ways, found me on Facebook through connection with a mutual friend of ours who I had worked with at a previous job, and that Shaka was working with because she was helping him cast his extras. And so basically Katie showed him a picture of me, and from there he was able to go to my Facebook, link to my blog, see an interview that I did with a fashion website called Style Like You, where I talked about my style and how it was greatly influenced by my travels. And then from there he hit me up, sent me a message or email, and we met up, and that's how I got involved with the project.
And from what I read, you are a performance artist, so this is your first film.
Yes.
So what kind of challenges did you face, being co-lead and just acting in general?
Well, I studied theater in school, so I'm a trained actress. I just am not trained in film, and I feel like I took a class in college called Acting for the Camera, which was in no way, anyway, prepared you for being in front of the camera. But being around such professional people who have been doing this way longer than me, and people who I looked up to, who I watched on soap operas and movies and television shows, and I had even seen Amari's work previously, and just being with them and vibing with them and being on the same frequency with them really helped me get into the kind of routine and in the kind of a pattern that you need to really be able to hang out on set, because sometimes you're just sitting and you don't even know what to do with yourself, and then you get called on. It's like, oh, I got to get into character now, and it was pretty seamless because everyone around was just very generous and kind and helped me really, get acclimated to being on the set in that process.
Gotta blow my nose.
Now, when I saw this movie, it kind of reminded me of like a half-baked meets Requiem for a Dream. As you mentioned, it's not a romantic comedy, but it's got comedy in there and a lot of drama, and there's a lot of themes in a way that's involved in the film with couples. As each of you read this, obviously you wrote the script, but as you did it, were any of these films or other films of influence that led you as far as how to get into character or write the characters?
Half Baked was an influence, I think, just as a stoner comedy that has completely ridiculous, fantastical moments that, many of which I think really work. For example, Jim Brewer's story about the dog smoking crack, like major influence on this movie and just my life. That was something I probably rewatched 80 times, in college. Requiem for a Dream, less so, even though I that's a movie that I enjoy, but for me this wasn't supposed to be a sort of cautionary tale, which I feel Requiem for a Dream most certainly is. I think that the overlap lies in both of these movies are about addiction, and I think most stoner comedies aren't about addiction. It's more so like the movies that are considered stoner comedies that actually just don't really have that much to do with weed. Mm-hmm. The humor is particularly palatable if you smoke cannabis or after a couple of joints, perhaps. Mm-hmm. Whereas this movie is a movie about addiction. It satisfies, sort of those same quotas you kind of expected with stoner comedy. Mm-hmm. But it also has a sort of dramatic story about addiction and about, in this instance, marijuana addiction, which, I know, sort of I guess one of the prevailing viewpoints on marijuana is that it's a substance that isn't addictive and has no addictive properties, but we all know that anything that brings you joy can be addictive. Mm-hmm. Food, entertainment, sex. Mm-hmm. Anything that's good mm-hmm. is you want more of it, and if you have an addictive personality, you can get hooked on it. So
I was gonna say, how was working with Amari on just developing the chemistry between your two characters, and just when you look at these two couples, or basically this couple, you see that they are in love with each other, but they love the substance more. Mm-hmm. What do you think goes in through their psyche as far as who wants what and more?
I always look at it like they had their addiction before they had each other. That's the way I kind of think about it. I look at it like the two characters are very passionate about whatever it is that they're driven by. And I feel like for Lyle, he doesn't have a lot of passions, but he's really about his weed. Like, that's the thing that really motivates him. Whereas I feel like for Nina, she has a lot of passions and a lot of dreams and a lot of things she's invested in, but it seems like weed seems to supersede a lot of those things because of the now relationship that she's developed with someone who also has weed supersede a lot of things in their life. I feel like they enable each other, and that their relationship is as addictive as their addictions, because they allow their relationship to kind of spiral out of control because of their addictions. So
I never thought that they love weed more than they love each other. Mm-hmm. I think that, I don't want to sort of give away the end of the movie, but I think one of the things Lyle comes to realize is how important his relationship, how much more important his relationship is to him than really anything in his life. I think that throughout the bulk of the movie, he sort of associates all of the joyful things in his life to being high. Even his relationship with his lady, he's like, he loves being high with her. And for the most part, every scene you see with the two of them, they're getting high together. But I think by the end, when he, loses her, he really starts to reconsider what's most important to him. And I don't even think it's a conscious thing. I think just her not being in the picture is devastating to him.
It forces him to do something different.
Yeah. And it's it's not like he makes good decisions. You know what I mean? I think one of the things I like about the movie is that, it's very true to who he is. So he's an addict, and he makes an addict's decision. Even when he decides, okay, I'm going to change my life, he goes about it in a totally sloppy, ramshackle way. You know what I mean?
So at the end of the day, when this movie opens up, what's the selling point for anybody to go see this movie, and what's the message you want them to come away once they see the film?
Well, in terms of the selling point, I think if you're a person who likes good performances, we won. You know what I mean? I think the performances here are just fantastic. Across the board. I mean, across the entire ensemble, from like the kids who have like a 5-minute scene to Amari and Trae, who I think do dynamic work, to Isaiah, who has a scene-stealing role, and Adrian Martinez and Hassan, and you could go down the list. I think the performances are fantastic. So if you're a fan of good performances and good acting, I think this movie is for you. Also, if you like gritty New York movies, if you really sort of miss, those old Scorsese, Cassavetes, Spike's independent, early independent work, if you sort of miss that feel and that texture of New York City as being, a very vibrant place full of character and characters, I think this movie is going to satisfy your appetite in that way as well. If you like to laugh, this movie is funny as hell. If you like good-looking people, her and Amari look really good together. If you like amazing costumes, Shay Jones, who's our costume designer, did an amazing job. If you like beautiful visuals, Daniel Patterson shot the hell out of this movie.
If you like the music.
If you like the music, we've got some amazing songs in here from my man Scott Thoreau, and from artists who you're very familiar with, like Cypress Hill and Isaac Hayes and Max Roach. So really, I think this movie is for, and if you like weed, and if you like weed and you like smoking weed and watching movies, this movie is made for you. If you like movies but you don't like weed, and you've never felt like what it's like to be high, this movie was made for you, because watching this movie, I've been told, makes people feel high who've never gotten high before. So I think the movie has a lot of selling points, and it's a very, I think, unique film, and I take credit for some of it, but really just the collaborative process with these people has yielded something I think is a tremendously unique piece of work. So.
And Trae, what's next for you?
A lot of things. I really want to work on writing, which is really important to me. You had said something previously, like about were there other references that I used to get into this character and like to develop her, and I just kind of felt like I didn't have a lot. I felt like there aren't a lot of growing up, and when I graduated from college, I thought I wasn't going to act because I felt like the women that I saw in Hollywood that were women of color didn't look like me, or I felt like the stories that were being told were stories that I was not only not invested in telling, but like tired of hearing, and that's a big deal for me, So writing, having a lot more of my writing being released, from my poetry to my scripts, and performing. I have a web series that's coming out soon called Family, I believe, and it should be dropping soon about women in Brooklyn, queer women in Brooklyn, and more everything, more stage, more film, more TV, whatever is coming. I'm open to receive whatever the universe has.
Okay, we are good to go. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks
a lot.